Do you wish that you had a ceiling fan but don't have the time, effort, money, or know how to install one? Well, maybe this can help you out. Welcome back to another Jeff Reviews for you. And as you saw in this video, we are looking at yet another socket fan light. This one's called the Socket Air Light. You know what though? Enough talk. Let's get right into this review. In this video, we are looking at the Socket Air Light, and it is one of those screw in your typical socket or light receptacle to have your very own fan and light. If you followed my channel for any period of time, you know that this is not my first time reviewing one of these. I've reviewed the original socket fan light. I've also reviewed the Breeze Bright. I should say that the Socket Air Light actually comes in two different types. This one right here is $20 and it's just gonna be a white light, but for $30, if you like this, you can actually get one that has 8 different colors along with it. So that might be something to consider, especially if you want different colored lights. Let's open up this box and see what we get. Here we are unboxed, and my Socket Air is on the left, my Breeze Bright is on the right, and you can already tell that our new one, our Socket Air, is significantly smaller, not only in the light, but also in the fan, and that is very, very sad to me. To bring that into full perspective, your light from one side to the other is just around 9 inches, and of course the fan, if you measure from one side to the other, is about 4.5 inches. Also in the box, we had some directions, plus we have a pretty simplistic remote control. You can turn on and off the fan. There's different levels here. You can also turn on and off the light, and there's different levels. Plus you can turn on and off the Socket Air Light all by itself. Plus there's a socket extender, and this is realistically used if you have a can light application, or maybe the Socket Air Light here is just a little too far away. You want to have a little more space. That's what these are used for. With this extension piece, you get an additional 3 3/4 of an inch. We have our Socket Air Light right here in a small little lamp. We're going to do that just to demonstrate the features. I am going to install it into an actual fixture to show it to you from there, but first I want to show you this here. Before we get started, let's make sure we remove this battery cover just so our remote control will work. I'm going to turn it on now, and I need to show you something before we get thoroughly into this test. When you turn it on, it defaults to the light being on the highest setting and the fan being on the highest setting. Now, I'm already going to say right now, I am disappointed with this fan right off the bat. It does not feel very powerful, and so that to me is a little frustrating. I'm not going to leave you hanging. We will test that fan speed a little bit later, but first I wanted to show you the different features of the remote control. I know I said this just a bit ago, but when you turn the fan light on from the light switch, it will default to on high light and on high fan. Regardless of what you shut it off as, it's always going to default there. So you do not want to lose your remote control if you want to change the settings. So let's do that right now. Right now our light is on high, so we're going to turn it down to medium. See how it dropped down? We're going to turn it down to low. And of course, we can turn our light off completely. I like right now that our fan is still on, but the light is off. That's pretty cool. We can also turn our fan down to medium and to low. And of course, we can turn that off too. Just like before when we had the fan on by itself, you can also have the light on by itself without the fan. Also, if you have them both running, there's this power button right here that you can shut it right off. I want to show you this right now. I have it on low fan and low light. I'm going to turn the power off with the remote. Let's turn that right back on. And as you can see, it turned it back on to high light and high fan. One last thing, the directions tell us we have to be within 16 feet of the light for this remote control to work. So tell me, what are your thoughts of these screw-in socket fan lights? Something you would use? Not so much? Is there one that you would recommend? Let me know down in the comment section below. I would love to hear from you. I turned the light off so I wouldn't blind you, and I wanted to show you the wind speed with the anemometer, and you can see right there we are just shy of 8 miles per hour on high. Let's turn it down to medium. Medium, we're right around 6.2 miles per hour. Oh, went up to 6.4. Let's drop this down to low. On low, you can see we're right there around 6 miles per hour. I'm gonna go install this into my can light, so I do have to use the extension wand. It just really simply screws in, make sure it is nice and tight. We're in the housing, turning it. Oh, there you go, it turned on. Let's tighten it down a little more. All right, I am in there. Now we are officially installed. Let's let that thing settle and check back in a minute to see how it's doing. Here we are installed, and the intent of this angle is to show you that with that extender, I do have a lot of clearance between the ceiling and the fan, therefore you can get that airflow that you need. Also, with the fan on high, this thing is not wiggling, at least from this vantage point. You can see the light way off in the distance. That's a typical light that I have in here. It's a little softer, but you can also see the difference between those two. Here's what it would look like installed. I know we saw it from the other angle. It does not shake down here, at least for me, and that can light is not particularly sturdy, so I do appreciate that. Also, when we're talking about that 1,000 lumens, this is really bright. So on the light spectrum, this one is right around 6,500 Kelvin, which is on the brighter end of lights that you can have. It's not something I particularly care for, especially in a living space. I'm more along the lines of liking that 3,000 Kelvin, which is that softer light. However, I will say that this brightens up the space that it's right around, so this would be perfect for a shed, a garage, even a basement or attic. Another thing to note, I have this installed in a 10-foot ceiling, and realistically, I only feel the wind directly below it in around a 3-foot circumference. It does not go left or right very far. You have to be realistically right down underneath this fan in order to feel the cooling effect. So that means you should probably utilize this more in a bathroom, which could be smaller than a living space, just so you're aware of that. I've gotten the question quite a few times on other reviews, what can I do if my LED burns out? Well, although LEDs do last a really, really long time, once these particular units burn out, you cannot replace them unless you really know how to work on that kind of stuff. But for the typical person, you just throw it away and get a new one. In this video, we are taking a look at the socket air light. So what did we think of it? First things first, let's talk about that price point. The fan light that we saw showcased right here in this video retailed for right around $20, but we do know there's an upgraded option where you can add 8 different colors for $30. In my opinion, those are both on the lower end of these socket fan lights. Makes it a pretty good deal if it's something that you're looking for. As soon as I unboxed it and compared it to the Breeze Bright, we noticed that it was much smaller and that wind speed was not as powerful as other units. That is something to consider as well, because you definitely want a fan that's going to blow a lot of wind at you. During my testing, we noted that you could only really feel the fan directly below you. It makes you think you don't want to put this in a big living room, but maybe something like a bathroom or a small office where you're just going to have something centrally located, because it does not move air around the room. I really do appreciate the ease of installing. As long as your socket is secure, this thing just screws right in and it works just with a flick of a switch. This brings us to the remote control, and I do appreciate all the different features on the remote control. I just wish when you turn the light switch off, it remembered the settings you had. Instead of turning it back on high fan and high light, it turned it on. Maybe I have no light and high fan. I wish it kind of remembered that. It makes keeping this thing around extra important. Anyway, that was my full review of the socket air light. If this is something that interests you, I will leave a link down in the description. This is Jeff with Jeff Reviews for You. As always, thanks for stopping by, and I hope you have a great day. For those of you interested about the power consumption, with the fan on high and the light on high, it pulls right around 16 watts. Let's lower those both down to low to see if there's any change. Sure enough, you saw it dropped from 16 to 3 watts of power being used with this fan on low and the light on low. I really do appreciate that you stayed around for my entire review of the socket air light. You know what? During this review, we actually referenced our Breeze Bright, another circle fan light. What I'm going to do is I'm going to link that review right up here, and I would love it if you would click on this link. And when you do, by the magic of the internet, I'm going to join you right here. So go ahead, click it. It's safe, I promise.